How was your adult revenge on your childhood bully? After I finished high school, a girl who bullied me relentlessly for years messaged me on Facebook saying a bunch of awful things. Facebook was new at the time, we all added anyone we knew. I just screenshotted the messages and posted them to her wall. Then a bunch of her friends messaged me asking if I was okay. I got my revenge and didn't have to stoop to her level. That is genius. A kid that bullied me in high school ended up addicted to crack or meth. Not sure which. I saw him 10 years later as I was leaving a drive-thru and yelled his last name. He turned and I saw the scratch marks on his face and a big burn-type gash in the middle of his lip. I asked him what had happened and he told me he got kicked out of his home. Instead of laughing at him or belittling him, I handed him the bag of food I just bought for myself as well as my cigarettes. He almost cried because according to him never in a million years would I have thought that after all the shit I put you through, that you'd help. I told him we were stupid kids and shit happens. I visited him once a week and just talked with him and kept telling him to get off the drugs. I moved away a short time after that, so I didn't know what had happened to him. One day, I got a friend request from him on Facebook. He kicked the drug habit and was working as a barista for one of those corner coffee shops. He is now married and living a life worth living. At the end of the day, no matter how much grief he put me through, he was his own worst enemy and anything I could have done to him or said to him was nothing compared to what he did to himself. I'm glad he's better and living a better life. As satisfying as the other revenge stories were to read, this felt very uplifting and relieving to know there are people like you out there. Thank you for living in this world. Believe me, I had a whirlwind of emotions in a matter of seconds. Do I laugh at him and tell him he got what he deserved? Do I hug him? Do I do nothing? I didn't see him as my high school bully in that moment where he was most vulnerable. I saw him as a person which life cheat on him. Others who have gone through addiction, pain, or any other grief can come back from the darkest of hells. If only someone extends a hand to help them. I married my bully's high school crush, McFly. Only 3 of them that I really know of. My elementary school bully and I eventually became close friends. And we're still close. Gaming together online despite the distance. And our significant others are close friends now as well. A girl in high school who always treated me like shit. I ran in 2 years afterwards at a coffee shop nightclub, weird combo thingy. I hear my name called out. Turned to find this living nightmare of my past and was surprised when she threw her arms around me and gave me a huge hug. We caught up for a while. And I asked her why she seemed so excited despite all we went through. She apologized and said that she was a bad person for never giving people a chance. And was glad that we seemed to get along now. The third was a jock that had been pretty cruel through most of middle high school. One day, out of nowhere, he sits beside me in class during a project and starts asking me how I've been. He asks me if it hurt me when he'd call me names or push me around. And I was honest. Told him that of course it did. He was quiet for a while and then apologized for how he'd treated me. Said that it was wrong for him to bully others. A week later he shot himself in the head on the front lawn of his parents' house. Of all the things I've done or not done in my life, I will always regret not going to his funeral. At the time I was confused and scared and didn't know what to think. But it still doesn't sit right with me. So, really, no revenge here. We grew up and realized that life was way ducking scarier than anything we'd been through as kids. Not really on topic, I suppose, but something that I wanted to share. I appreciate you telling your story. And I'm pleased that you were mature enough to accept your bully's apologies. Not my bully, but my best friends. Kinda kept in touch with the entire high school class through Facebook once it came out. This Ashat asks if he can use me as a reference because we got similar degrees and ended up in the second field. Adult him seems like a sham. It's all fake. My high school best friend moved to Europe because of this guy. He can't change that much. So I agree to meet him for drinks and see if he changed. 10 minutes into the meetup and he's telling me about cheating on his wife with girls right out of high school. So, of course, I said yes. Only had 3 calls I guess before he caught on. But I made sure I told the truth. I like this one. It's sneaky and clever. I heard that actually giving poor recommendations for job references is considered slander and can open you up to lawsuits. At least in Canada and the US. I was taught, I can't remember where now that I think of it, is that you only answer the questions you are asked directly. And if they ask you an open-ended question that would result in a negative answer, you simply say I cannot comment on that. Or you have no comment. I had a friend receive a negative reference from a reference check that originated from a personal issue and wasn't in any way related to his ability to perform a job. He brought it up to that person's HR department and he was suspended. Alberta, Canada. Being a confident, successful adult. Just kidding. I'm faking it like the rest of you. I gave him decaf latte before he left to go to his high-powered Wall Street exec job. Haha. He's going to be tired around 11. My best revenge was to just keep on being myself. This girl in high school would criticize me on everything. Call me names and pick up fights with me for no reason. She eventually got kicked out of school. We met when we were in our early 20s. She started off nicely with the usual "How are you? What's been happening?" Turns out she hadn't even changed a little bit. "Oh yeah? Want to be a teacher? You'll probably make a miserable one. I wouldn't send me kids to your school. Ever." That's when I realized that I was just so over her and her bullying and that there was just no hope for her to realize what she did was wrong. It gave me some sort of satisfaction. The best thing to do in that scenario is just to laugh in her face. Not so much revenge. But I got an insane amount of satisfaction from seeing that they all lived up to the expectations set out for them to become single, unwed mothers by 24. See? They might consider themselves successful if they lived up to their own expectations. We should congratulate them on their success. I graduated from high school in the 80s. I had grown up poor, but when my mom remarried, she married a guy who did well for himself, so when we moved into his house, I was a poor kid suddenly going to a school full of rich kids. One of them in particular was a girl who was really stuck up and such a rick. She had a very imperious attitude and generous parents, while my mom, there was no way she was going to allow us to behave that way. About 6 years after high school graduation, I dropped out of college. Was living on my own in a tiny apartment and working as a waitress. Of all people to show up at the restaurant and be seated in my section. I asked a couple of waitresses to take the table, but they were busy. Finally I realized what I would do. I would take on the role of my life. Win an Academy Award. I went to the table and pretended I'd never met her before in my life. She kept insisting I must remember her. Right? She kept saying her name and I nailed the performance. "I'm so sorry. I just don't know. I'm trying. I believe you. Yes. I went to that school, but I am so sorry. I don't remember you," and so on. She was flabbergasted. I kept overhearing her say to the people she was with, "I can't believe she doesn't remember me." That day I learned that to be forgotten is, for some, the ultimate slap in the face. Now that is good. I mean, you weren't rich and famous and couldn't throw these things in her face out of pettiness. You made it seem that all her negative energy she had thrown at you had not affected you in the least. Bravo. His sister sucked my big dick. I was pretty fat as youngster, but people still found me attractive. This bothered my bully so much that any time she could, she would bully me about my weight. Oh, I love those jeans. How do you find them in your size? Taking sneak pictures of me in class and putting them online. Or forcing me to kiss another girl at a sleepover, then telling everyone I was a les. It was great. Fast forward 10 years. I'm starting a career I love. Lost a substantial amount of weight and am living far away from my small town upbringing. I go home to visit my mother, and who do I see walking around the grocery store? Hair thrown up in a ratty headband. Extra 30 pounds on her hips and looking like a complete mess. I knew I could ruin her right there, but I didn't. I simply put a big smile on my face and said, wow. Motherhood looks great on you. The fact that she had to trick someone into getting her pregnant after a drunken night at the local watering hole and now has 4 stepkids before 25 makes me realize that her bitterness and hateful attitude has served her more revenge than I ever could. My bully hit on me at some bar years after he bullied me. I knew who he was immediately. But he had no idea who I was, so he kept going. Finally I asked, do you know who I am? And he said no. I said, I'm so and so, and you made my life a living hell in elementary school and I want an apology. His face dropped and he apologized profusely. Said that he was a huge asshole in elementary school etc etc. Not gonna lie. It felt good. Oh man. This is almost exactly like my story. Except I didn't demand an apology. I told him to go to hell. And flounced off like the hot piece of ass that I knew I was at that time. It felt amazing. Well, does revenge as a child count? When I was 11 there were 2 bullies who would mess with me all the time. They were a couple years older. This heavy-set kid named Frank and his taller and meaner friend, I forget his name. One day I was out riding my bike at a park. They had stopped me. One was holding up the front of my bike, while Frank was hitting me, trying to knock me off the bike. At that exact instant my brother, 6 feet 4 inches 220 pounds, was driving by. He quickly stopped the car and ran over. He picked both of them up by their shirt collars, one in each hand, holding them each about a foot off the ground. He said something like, you mess with my brother again and I'll bash both your $% heads together. Got it? He dropped them both. They fell. Then quickly got up and ran away. They never bothered me again. At that moment I felt that, yes, there is justice in the world. I forget his name. You win. We ended up fighting in front of the crowd. I beat him and he stopped being a jackass bully to everyone after that. Was it a fight to the death? Joking. I have Tourette's syndrome and was bullied relentlessly in early grade school. One day in the winter I had had enough. So I threw a jagged block of ice at my bully's face. Knocked some teeth out and he needed stitches. I almost got expelled. Worth it. Who the duck makes fun of someone with Tourette's? What a bunch of hunts. I was bullied for a lot of things. Primarily for being overweight and being nerdy. A lot of my bullies are now also fat. Or have noticeably put on weight. While I've started losing. One of them is a drug addict. One was arrested on child pornography charges. One is in an ongoing custody battle and his ex's family are rather violent. Others just made bad moral choices. Such as becoming a gold digger, drinking regularly, or just continuing to harbor ill feelings against me. Jared bullied you? Bumped into him at a bar. He apologized for bullying me. I didn't remember him. Some people do change for the better. A kid that bullied me in high school, he actually gave me a black eye once and got suspended for it, messaged me on Facebook apologizing for everything he did to me back then. I told him it's okay, you were just young and didn't know better. I eventually got a drink with him one day to see what he was up to and he broke down on me. Started talking to me about his alcohol problems and how he was self-destructive. He was getting kicked out of his mom's place and had no job. Me being the sap I am, offered him a job at the restaurant I was managing at the time. This was about 2 years ago. Fast forward to 3 months ago, he is now a kitchen manager at the same restaurant and he asks me if I'd like to get a drink with him. Dude bought me and my girlfriend a ticket to Colorado and told me he will never be able to pay me back for how much I helped him, but he is at least in the position where he can try. Colorado was fun. Got really high. This story made me smile equals. To be honest, this is strides better than the petty is now married to an ugly person lol stories. I worked as a newscast director for my local TV station a few years back. Part of the job was making show graphics, maps, full screens, OTS, over the shoulders, etc. for each newscast, including for the local Crimistoper segment. I prepped the mugshots of no less than 3 people who gave me shit in school for air during my tenure there. That always managed to put a smile on my face. They got a huge full back tattoo, the ugliest tattoo I have ever seen. I saved the JPEG on my desktop and named it Revenge and I look at it occasionally if I get sad. Not really a bully, but my turd scum of an ex-girlfriend. She broke up with me after coming back from a trip and telling me at school the next day she cheated on me with some random dude she met online. We're both 21 plus now. And she's got a 3-year-old kid and still lives with her mother. Last month, I was at a Kroger buying flowers for my current GF. She's ducking amazing BTW. And turd scum is with her non-baby daddy boyfriend. Dude looks at me walking down the aisle with a nice bouquet of flowers and says, hey, maybe I should buy you some flowers like that guy is doing for his girl. The look of utter shock and disdain on her face was ducking priceless. Walked by her with the biggest smirk on my face. Best part was I was all fancied up cause I was about to surprise my GF with a date night. So I'm dressed in a polo and slacks. And Turd Sheet's chimney choker has his pants around his thighs and looks like he hadn't bathed in a week. So satisfying. So I have a friend who sometimes catches up with my high school bully and gets his new number. My friend gives me his number and then I spend the afternoon signing him up for gay dating sites and some weird Craigslist sheet. I'm told he has had to change numbers about 20-30 times in the last 3 years. I have not taken revenge at all. I have moved away and left it behind as much as I could. Now I just watch him waste his life from afar with a content smile and see how not having education is kicking his ass. He is losing friends and eventually will end up alone. Not that my life is so amazing. But I am doing better than him. I've never wished a man dead. But I have read some obituaries with great pleasure. Mark Twain. He became a coke dealer and I became a snitch. The hunter became the hunted. I wasn't really bullied growing up, by the way. But I do have a story. Guy who bullied my cousin and even brainwashed his then girlfriend and turned her against him was paralyzed from the neck down in an accident and will never have use of his body again. My cousin told him right to his face that he got what he deserved. This is what happened to my sister's bully. She was on cheerleading with her and constantly bullied sis. She was one of the shortest, so she got tossed in the air. Sis was short too but a bit bigger, so cheerleader was always on about that. One day at practice when she came down and they didn't catch her, broke her neck and paralyzed her from there down. Sis went to visit once after, and she still tried to bully her over being chubby. Still, sis told her to enjoy being a talking head and quit cheer. She got fat. I got fit. I got fat. 2 of them. At the end of my legs. Not me. But my 9-year-old daughter has to deal with this girl in her class that is a bully to everyone. Though she is especially mean to my daughter. Luckily most of the time. The kids all have her back, and she theirs. The teachers are aware of her issues and try their best. But she's sneaky. My daughter is type 1 diabetic. And this girl likes to tease her. She does lots of things. But is really mean about it. She told her that her feet will get chopped off, due to beaters, and other horrible things. One day, she was waving a big chocolate chip cookie in her face. Telling her how she can't eat stuff like that because she's a freak. My daughter had enough. She got up and slapped the girl across the face. And the cookie went flying too. She yelled, "Leave me alone." The whole lunchroom went silent. The girl ran to tell the teacher. And the kids cheered. She came home and told us because she felt badly about it. The girl told the teacher. Crying of course. But several students also told the whole story. The teacher told my kid matter-of-factly, "Don't do that anymore." And yelled at the girl and made her stay from recess. Since then, this girl gives my daughter a wide berth. I do not condone this behavior. But damn, it was hard to keep a straight face when we were telling her that it was the wrong way to resolve things. As a 43-year-old who was never bullied, I probably don't understand the mechanics. But to me your daughter's response seems the most natural and correct one. Some people, bullies, do not seem to understand the language of tolerance or love and can make life miserable in tiny doses until stopped dead in their tracks by a more direct method like a slap. Living well truly is the best revenge. They are still in Florida and I'm not. I had my bullies approach me on bonfire night when I was about 17. They came and said how sorry they were that they made school horrible for me etc. I told them to go fuck themselves. I persevered and became quite popular in school while they faded into obscurity for being big digs.